In 2011, a Polish woman known as Michelina Lewandoska was getting ready to go shopping with her boyfriend. She was very excited because their relationship has been very unstable and they haven't done anything together in a very long time. However, when she walked out of the bathroom ready for the outing, she was met with a peculiar boyfriend instead of an eager one, smiling strangely at her. Then he told her that he had something to show her. But this something wasn't a gift. It was a stun gun. She looked at her boyfriend and his friend who was with him, thinking that they must be joking with her, but they were not. Today, I'm going to tell you a terrifying story on how very quickly love can turn to hate and how twisted and dark humans can really be. The story started in a small village called Lasocin in southwest Poland. You see, a Polish couple, Jan and Michelina Lewandoska, had 3 daughters, one of which was Michelina Lewandoska. In 2005, when Michelina was just 21 years old, she met 19-year-old Marcin Kasprzak. They met near a shop in their small village. They fell in love and began dating. And within a year, Marcin proposed to Michelina. A year later, the young couple moved from Poland to the UK to look for work and begin their new life together. They moved into Marcin's parents' home in the UK. Their relationship was a bit turbulent, but towards the end of 2007, Michelina got pregnant. A year later, the couple welcomed the son. In April of 2008, they named him Jacob. As time went by, their relationship continued to deteriorate. They called off the engagement. However, they continued to live together. Michelina was hopeful that they would work through their differences, since they already had a child together. She continued to wear her engagement ring while keeping hope alive. But by 2011, the relationship had reached a boiling point, and it was clear to both Michelina and Marcin that there wasn't any future for their relationship. Marcin chose to spend all his time at the gym, bodybuilding, instead of spending time with Michelina. Then, one day, out of the blue, Marcin invited Michelina to go shopping with him and his friend, 18-year-old Patrick Boris. This invitation surprised Michelina, but she was also pleased by the invitation. She wondered if this was going to be the turning point in their relationship. With their 3-year-old son, Jacob, staying with Marcin's parents, Michelina eagerly started getting ready for the outing. She went into the bathroom to get her makeup done. She could faintly hear the men discussing outside the bathroom. When she emerged from the bathroom, she saw Marcin and Patrick with what she called a chilling smile on their faces. Without enough time to process what was going on, Marcin told Michelina that he had something to show her. That something was a 3,000-volt stun gun, which he pulled out of his pocket. He told Michelina that he was going to show her how it worked, before shoving it against her neck. The taser sent a wave of massive electric shock through her body. Marcin threw her to the floor as he kept tasing her. She screamed in agony, begging for him to stop, but he was too strong for her to fight off. The bodybuilder pinned her down with his massive 220-pound weight. At some point, he stopped tasing her. That was when Michelina asked him if he planned on killing her, to which he responded that he was just taking her somewhere and that she shouldn't be afraid. Marcin and Patrick then taped Michelina's mouth. Using duct tape, they bounded her wrists and ankles. Once they finished bounding her, Marcin tased her one more time before they left her lying in the hallway for 6 hours. Initially, she thought the attack was some sort of a sick joke. Then it became clear to her what the intentions of the men were. That's when she vowed to remain conscious, because she wasn't sure if she would ever wake up again if she did not. After nightfall, the 2 men came back. They dragged her into the kitchen, where they discussed using plastic bags. Michelina thought they were going to use it to suffocate her, but they did not. Instead, they stuffed this fully bounded Michelina into a cardboard box. Then they secured the box using duct tape. She tried fighting back by screaming through the tape covering her mouth. That was when Marcin laughed. He told her as calmly as someone having a heart-to-heart, "I've hated you for 4 years, and you will never see your son again." Michelina would later recall, "I would never forget the look on his face. He was very calm, which was even more terrifying." Marcin and Patrick then finished stealing the box, carried it into Patrick's car, placed it inside, The men then drove some distance from what Michelina recalled to be a remote bushy area. They brought the box down from the vehicle, dragged it along the ground, with Michelina feeling every painful rock as they passed over on her back. The men had previously dug the shallow grave. They put the box inside and started covering it with dirt using a shovel. To ensure that Michelina would never get out alive, they placed a large tree trunk over the box. From within the box, Michelina could hear the shovel digging the dirt and the dirt hitting the box. She strained her ears to hear the discussion of the two men. She thought to herself, "This is it. I'm going to die." While she felt intense pain from her cramped and twisted position, she began to worry about suffocating. She tried to calm herself while breathing as lightly as possible. She laid still while listening for the sound of her attacker's vehicle driving away. She didn't dare to escape if her attackers were still present, because they would kill her if she managed to find her way out of the box. The thought of never seeing her son again and leaving him motherless if she dies gave her the strength to fight for her life. She waited and listened for the sound of the vehicle driving off, but she did not hear anything. After a long while, she decided to take the risk. She thought to herself they must have left by now, so it was time to strategize her escape. She was helpless, in pain, contorted, bound and buried alive in a cardboard box. Then, suddenly, she remembered that she had something with her that could help her. Ironically, it was the very same thing that Marcin gave her to symbolize their love, her diamond engagement ring. She took it off, used the sharp edge of the diamond to cut the tape around her wrist and ankle, removed the tape from her mouth, and put the ring back on, and started using it to slash and cut the cardboard box until she was able to create a hole. She put her hand through the hole, frantically pulling and tearing out the cardboard box. But dirt from outside started falling through the hole onto her face, her hair, and clothes. She began to scream for help, hoping that someone would hear her and come to her rescue. But she received no response. She went back to kicking at the box. She was incredibly weak, but she just kept trying. Then, she managed to create a hole large enough for her head to pass through. Then, she pushed her head as hard as she could through the dirt until her head emerged from the top. It was still dark outside, but she could see trees and the sky. She took multiple deep breaths as she was desperate for fresh air. She was exhausted, covered in dirt, but there was still a lot to be done. She could tell that she was in the middle of nowhere, and getting her head out wasn't going to be enough to save her in the darkness of the night, with a variety of wild animals in the area. She knew for certain that she was going to survive the ordeal when she was able to force her arms above the surface. After being buried alive for almost an hour, she managed to free the rest of her body. Completely exhausted, she staggered from the bushes onto the road. She flagged down a car, and fortunately for her, the driver stopped. He helped Michelina to call the police. The police arrived at the scene within 15 minutes. She shared her harrowing experience with them. She then took them to where she was buried alive. The police immediately located and arrested Marcin. They brought him in on suspicion of kidnapping and attempted murder. He didn't deny the accusation. He however claimed that he wasn't trying to kill Michelina, claiming he only wanted to scare her and that he was going to come back and retrieve her. But they didn't believe him, particularly because they discovered that after burying Michelina alive, Marcin and Patrick used their ATM card to withdraw £500. They then returned home to play video games. By the end of the investigation and subsequent trial, they learned the full story. 25-year-old Marcin was an avid bodybuilder who had developed addiction for anabolic steroid. The addiction often led him to experience fits of rage. Once he got to know that Michelina was going to leave him and return to Poland with their son, he decided to get rid of her and raise Jakob alone with the help of his parents. They got to know that Marcin told Michelina that she wasn't as beautiful as the women he meets at the gym, and that he has changed his Facebook status to single, hoping to start a new relationship with another woman. He was disappointed that his murderous plan didn't go as planned, because his stunt gun did not perform as advertised. It was supposed to paralyze Michelina. In court, Michelina, who spoke Polish, described her experience with the aid of an interpreter. She said, "He was putting the soil on top of me. I wanted to reply. I wanted to put my fingers through the hole, but I was afraid he would break them with the shovel." She continued, I thought about my ring, that I could remove it and cut the tape with it. She described how she could hear music from a nearby pub, so she thought to herself she couldn't be far from civilization. Marcin's defense then argued the same thing that he had told police earlier, that he never wanted to kill her, but was only trying to scare her. He stated that the box the men placed Michelina in had 2 handle holes from where she could breathe, but Michelina countered the argument, saying that the holes were not intended for her to breathe through, but to aid the men in carrying the box. In January of 2020, almost 9 years after the crime was committed, Marcin Kasprzak was convicted of attempted murder and kidnapping and was sentenced to 20 years in prison. Patrick Boris was found not guilty of attempted murder. However, he was found guilty of kidnapping and was sentenced to 4 years and 6 months in prison. Both men were required to serve at least half of their sentences before they would be eligible for parole. However, it won't be applicable in the case of Marcin. This is because, after he was arrested, the police searched the home of his parents, where he, Michelina, and his son were living. There they found equipment and supplies for making explosive. Marcin pleaded guilty to 8 counts of illegal possession of explosive and was sentenced to 32 years in prison, 4 years for each count. This was added to his 20-year sentence for attempted murder.